Right. Now coming to the first article of the day, that is about electoral bonds, right? So 2 to 3 prelims questions are in this particular article. As all of you can guess, what are electoral bonds? What are the provisions of electoral bonds? So electoral bonds are bearer instruments. They are non-interest bearing instruments. Yes. They are exempt from income tax. Or do they give income tax benefits? Political parties are exempt from income tax in relation to electoral bonds. True? The person who is buying electoral bonds will get tax benefits. That is also true. The person who is buying the electoral bonds will get some interest. Sure? Yes. Okay. What is the provision that guides PM fund? What is the legal basis for PM fund? Legal provision for creation of PM fund. Yes, it is for disaster. I am asking what is the provision that created the PM fund? Like, is there a legal basis for creation of PM fund? Is it Disaster Management Act, or before that is it a legally binding act? Okay, prelims questions like Nehru created PM fund because of refugee crisis, or is it Prime Minister Modi who created PM fund?
Both of them. One is PM cares,
One is PM cares. PM cares is created by the COVID because of COVID reason, but PM fund, national fund, is created because of the partition effect, the influx of the migrants. So we know PM fund, we also are linking it to the statutory provision, because there is a huge debate last year, what is the need for PM care when PM fund is already existing. So see, the time gap between prelims, the 2 prelims, is hardly 8 months. So UPSC may or may not get all the current affairs it is looking for. So it's your responsibility to read everything from Jan 2020 till May 2021. So it's a huge amount of current affairs. So everything is interlinked. Next, the constitutional provisions related to election commissioner. Is it a constitutional body? The basic details. Is there a provision, clarification, is there a requirement for election commission? Like, is there a mention in the constitution that who can be election commissioner, or anyone can be election commissioner? See, when I ask you questions, it's your responsibility to either write down them or to follow it up. So at least election commission, is there a provision in the constitution, or at least in your Lakshmikant for us, which mentions these are the provisions for election commissioner? Is there? Qualifications are not mentioned. That is one of the biggest criticisms of election commission. Qualification is not mentioned. Normally it is filled by an IAS officer. So is it primus inter pares? Are all the election commissioners equal, or only the chief election commissioner is equal? All are equal? Sure. Yes. Okay. So what is the article for election commission? Elections 324 3 or 324 or 323? 324. Okay, nice. Right. So those are the basic prelims questions you can understand. And Solicitor General, Attorney General, you know the difference, right? What is the difference between Attorney General and Solicitor General? First law officer of the government. Solicitor General?
He accompanies the Attorney General. He represents the government instead of Attorney General.
He is subordinate
He is subordinate
to Attorney General in a way. That is what you are saying. Okay, fine. So that is one more prelims question. Yes. Next, this will be discussed in depth for mains purpose, IR relations. But prelims question, worst case scenario, UN Human Rights Council. So technically it's related to United Nations. It's an intergovernmental body, as all of you can guess. All UN bodies are more or less intergovernmental bodies, and their obligation is to discuss about human rights issues. So the importance of this particular article is this: Human Rights Council has a wide mandate. I will provide the link. It's a wide mandate. Anything related to from rule of law to LGBT rights, everything comes under human rights. So everything and anything that happens in any other country comes more or less under the mandate of United Nations Human Rights Council. Trivial bank exam like questions, where is it headquarters and all those things may or may not be right. Next, people in the news, Sinhala Buddhists. Okay, so again it's a very common theme in UPSC to ask group of people. Rohingyas are from where, Uyghurs are from where, Houthis are from where. Yes, Sinhala Buddhists are where. Yes, one important point you have to remember is Buddhists are considered to be very peaceful people. Yes, but Sinhala Buddhists are in the news occasionally for the wrong reasons. Right? I mean, occasionally. I am not saying they are violent people. Occasionally they are in the news for wrong reasons. Rohingyas are from Myanmar. Okay. Again, if you don't know the technology like GPS, all of you know, right? Global positioning system. Does India have a global positioning system? Technical differences, regional navigation system and global positioning system. Very few countries actually have global positioning system. India has regional navigational system, and it is favorite topic for UPSC. It has asked twice about that particular topic, IRNSS. So it covers up to what range? 15,000. Very good. 1500 kilometers. IRNSS range is 1500 kilometers from Indian borders. All the SAARC nations more or less come under IRNSS. So how many satellites are there? How many satellites are in operation? How many of them are in geostationary orbit, geosynchronous orbit? That is your prelims question. Okay, and what are the various GPS systems in the world? Baidu, GLONASS, yes, QZSS, IRNSS, Copernicus, Galileo. Okay, Galileo is from European Union, obviously, right? What is the Russian GPS system? GLONASS. Okay, very good. GPS is from USA. Why did we create IRNSS? After Kargil, we realized we cannot depend on other country for our navigation. So we need to have our own encrypted navigation system. Prelims questions all. So those who know the difference between geosynchronous and geostationary, please raise your hands. Very good. So please understand, 20% of your efforts will get you 80% of the scores. So basics, what is geostationary satellite? Geosynchronous, because every time you see PSLV, GSLV has launched a satellite, it has placed it in a polar orbit, yes, or geosynchronous or geostationary orbit, you need to know the number. 35,786 kilometers is just geostationary, yes, geosynchronous. And there is this polar orbit. International Space Station is in polar orbits, not in geostationary or geosynchronous. So ISS, International Space Stations, are in polar orbits. So what is the difference between all the three orbits? Can be a science and tech question in your mains. So whatever you are going to learn in prelims will also help you in mains. Clear? Yes. Why is International Space Station? Is because India is planning to create its own International Space Station. So that is the reason why you need to link it to this. Again, link topic, Lagrange points, yes, Mission Aditya, yes, L1, L2. So what are Lagrange points in relation to satellites? So that is what I keep saying, right? Batch the current affairs. That means when you are reading about satellites or when you are reading about space programs, mix everything. Gaganyaan, Chandrayaan, Mars, Perseverance, Hope, yes, Aditya mission, International Space Station of India. When you batch all these things, whatever you learn, you can apply in other places also. Yes, it becomes very easy for you to link and remember. Yes, scrappage policy, when it is official, we can discuss about it. Not needed for prelims, more or less. Okay, now there is something called as trans-oriented or transit-oriented development policy. Yes, it's a very, very important term. Please remember it in relation to GS paper 3, urbanization, transit oriented development policy. Even Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Delhi, all are going for transit oriented development policies. Simply understand, it is a policy where it encourages cycling, walking, last mile connectivity to reduce the burden on carbon footprint and also to create lot of employment activities. So I will provide you the details, don't worry about it. But why I picked this particular topic is, in prelims a questions might come, what are the advantages of having trans oriented policy? Will these steps be achieved by transit oriented policy? For example, reducing dependency on driving. Why? Rapid metros are there. From metro to your nearest office, you again have cycling system. If you go to Gachibowli area, there are these cycles, right, where you can rent them. Yes, so you are creating cycling paths, at the same time walking. Yes, or worst case scenario, electric vehicles. So what will happen because of all these things? Mobility will increase, at the same time carbon footprint will come down, because you know that till your office you are connected somehow. From your home to metro you have cycle, from metro to your office again you have cycle. So you probably won't take out your car unless it's really necessary. So there are multiple advantages. So these are the advantages, you can read them, self-explanatory, and I have provided a deep infographic also, like how it encourages cycling, walking, urbanization. Yes, you have to connect, public transport should be encouraged. Yes, and see, this is called as vertical floor spacing. Instead of growing horizontally, we will grow vertically so that we will decongest. Yes, so vertical floor spacing is a policy that is recommended way back in 12th Planning Commission, the last one. Okay, so that is not what we are doing. We are trying to horizontally expand, still creating lot of congestions. Yes. So again, compact satellite cities, satellite towns can be developed. You get the macro idea, right? Transit oriented development means you create a metro system or you create a transport system where from there last mile connectivity and jobs will be created. You need not work only in Banjara Hills, you can work anywhere. Because of the mobility or because of the access, automatically development will happen. So that is transit oriented development policy. If you read that particular article, right, so it also says more or less the same thing. Again, if you see in Delhi, for example, the metro stations, just below the metro stations you have the bus stop also, so they are interconnected. That means the metro, the bus and the feeder mechanisms, everything is interconnected. Now electric vehicle policy will be encouraged. So going by international examples, Scandinavian countries, even in China, all you need is an app. You go to any bike, you scan it with your app barcode, you'll pay certain amount of money, the lock will be opened, you take it wherever you want to, then again you bring back next day and drop it there. So it's like not having a cycle, and at the same time leasing a cycle. Uberization of cycles. Yes, so that was introduced in China, and lot of e-waste has been generated, cycles are being dumped now. Again, there are different issues, but carbon footprints will come down. So in prelims worst case scenario, vertical gardening, yes, transit oriented development policy, and some other policy, vehicle scrappage policy. These three things are mentioned. Which of these will reduce vehicular pollution? All the three, right? Vehicle scrapping policy will also sell the old vehicles. So fuel efficiency vehicles will be encouraged. Bharat Stage 6 will also reduce vehicular pollution. You connect the 2 plus 2. Clear?
India's navigation system is also recognized globally.
Louder.
India's navigation system is also made globally improvement.
Tomorrow you found out and tell me if it is so. I will publicly say it is a global positioning system. We are planning to develop it to global positioning system. Right now we don't have the capacity, because to maintain a global navigation system you need thousands of, not thousands, hundreds of satellites, right? At least 50, 60 minimum. Yes. Sorry? So that is what I am saying. It's a regional navigation system, not global navigation system. Now Bihar Assembly passes Lokayukta Amendment bill. A very important article for your GS paper 2 in mains orientation also, prelims specifically. So is Lokayukta and Lokpal a statutory body? How many of you know the answer? Okay, why is it a statutory body? Sorry? Nalsa Act. Nalsa Act creates Lokpal and Lokayukta. What happened to Lokpal and Lokayukta bill act? So Lokpal and Lokayukta Act 2013 itself is empowering Lokpal and Lokayukta. So prelims questions can be anything. Lokpal can suo moto take cases. Lokpal can suo moto take cases. You know, one day when you fall from the steps, don't blame me. I don't know who. Yes, please.
Yes.
Lokpal can take. Okay. One of the criticisms of Lokpal is what?
It doesn't have, like, until recently it didn't have
Hmm.
it didn't have
Hmm.
CI or anything under its mandate to
Hmm. Suo moto will start the cases. Right now it is having suo moto powers for sure. You think so?
I read.
You read somehow. Okay. Lokayuktas can take suo moto cases. Shweta, read? Lakshmikant? No, you haven't read. Smart. Okay. How many of you have read Lakshmikant and this particular chapter? Yes. Nihar? Lokayukta can take. So the problem is Lokayukta is not a uniform body, right? Every state has its own discretion to allow cases. So some states have allowed suo moto cases, whereas some cases haven't taken. But Lokpal, as far as my knowledge goes, doesn't allow you to take suo moto cases. That is one small caveat. It might have changed in the recent times. Just follow up and update me. Okay. So suo moto cases is very powerful or very important for Lokpal and Lokayuktas. Why? Unless someone actually goes and starts complaining against the higher authorities, for example against Chief Minister, who in the right mind will complain against Chief Minister? You are supposed to. I mean, that is the right mind. But the thing is, we may or may not take. So please go home and read the Lokpal and Lokayukta chapters in Lakshmikant and come back. The problem with this particular instance is, people filing false cases before anti-corruption ombudsman will be punished. That will disincentivize people to file cases. I genuinely know that Srinidhi has taken corruption or bribe. Okay, I have filed a case, but it was not proved. Okay, then can we call it as a false case? Yes or no? And as all of you know, the conviction rate in corruption cases is very less. When you read newspapers, anti-corruption bureau raided and arrested someone and all these things, that is only the first part of the case. That has to be proved in the court, then he has to be punished. That is when the case is concluded. Just arresting is not the punishment itself, right? So it will dissuade the honest people to file cases. So that is one important problem you have to notice. So prelims question again, what are the powers of Lokayukta and Lokpal? Yes? How many of you know the article for CAG? You know, if I make you the same number of sit-ups, automatically you will remember. Yes, what is the answer? 148. Right, prelims wise there are simple questions like what is the difference between International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice? How many of you know which is a UN body? ICJ and ICC, International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice. Which one is constitutional body? Sorry, which one is UN body? Yes, Aditya?
ICJ is important, it's located in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
It's located in Paris.
Okay, ICJ is UN body, that is what you are saying. Okay, so what are the criteria where ICC is brought in?
From the Rome Statute, and in case there are
Genocide, war crimes,
genocide, war, it
and other human right violations. So International Criminal Court is not a UN body. International Court of Justice is a UN body. You have to remember them. Okay, that's a standard typical question you will see at least once in the entire UPSC journey. The other is very simple, like Houthis. As all of you know, Syria, Yemen, I told you, the entire Middle East is very, very important for your map pointing. Okay, Yemen is sharing which sea as a boundary? Which sea shares the boundary with Yemen? Sea or lake? Yeah, below, south. Red Sea. Sure. Okay, so that is what I said, right? 20% of your efforts will get you 80% of the marks. Go and see any UPSC paper. Red Sea is like die-hard favorite of UPSC. Every 3 years once Red Sea will come into the paper. They cannot make a paper without Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, repeated names. Yes, but luckily now options are changing. They are throwing in new areas, but they are also in the news. Okay, Yemen, Saudi Arabia is like 10 times in the news. If you don't know the boundaries, or if you don't know the land, the countries that surround these countries, you are going to self-eliminate yourself. Make sure you by heart the entire map. So the simplest solution is spending 10 minutes every day rather than doing PhD on one day. Yes or no? Daily see one country and try to recollect the names. Create your own mnemonics. Like, how do I remember this? You create your own stories, right? Everybody have their own version of the story. Yes? Again, there is an issue that is ongoing between US and China. Even Suhasini Haidar wrote an article in today's Hindu also. But for prelims wise, we can remember what is 5G technology, what is difference between 5G and 4G. Yes, why you can also link it to types of 5G networks. Within 5G there are two types, right? One with high speeds, one with low speeds, one with more coverage area, the other one with less coverage of area. So if more coverage means less speed, less coverage means more speed. That is a simple way to remember it. So you need to know the technical details, latency and all those points are to be remembered, because UPSC is also asking similar questions related to telecom sector. So it's a very rare scenario it might ask you about spectrum, but it is high probability that it might ask you about 5G technology, because it has already asked about 4G old. Yes, simple questions like, do you need a new hardware to use 5G technology, or your existing hardware will be, is it backward compatible? Yes,
It is not backward.
it is not backward compatible. What is the technology behind FASTag? RFID. Okay, so basic prelims questions is like, line of sight is needed for RFID. Line of sight is not required for RFID. So how many of you know the difference between RFID, Bluetooth 5.0 and near field communication, NFC? Which one of these needs line of sight? Which one of these have a broader length, like in coverage area? Yes. What is the difference between Bluetooth 4.0 and 5.0? Don't think like these are all utopian questions that SAR is creating out of thin air. When you see them in the question paper, you will realize. Yes. All of you must have seen, right? Bluetooth 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. Yes. The ones you are using probably is 4. So what is the difference between 4 and 5? Yes, Charat?
I think higher speed with multiple devices can be connected.
Multiple devices can be connected is one basic difference between 4 and 5. What is NFC? Near field communication. So how many of your smartphones actually are NFC enabled? I don't know, right? First of all, I don't know. That might be the simple answer. You don't know whether your phone is NFC capable or not. Yes, you see PayWave cards. Yes or no? All the Paytm cards, all you do is just tap. Is it NFC? Is it RFID?
I think it's RFID.
Okay.
Metro cards also use it.
Metro cards uses different. So Metro cards are what? RFID. See, all UPSC needs to do is ask basic questions which you do on a day-to-day life, right? And half of us will be eliminated. So please find out the difference between NFC, Bluetooth and RFID, because FASTag is continuously in the news. So as I told you, if you write down all these things and if you do basic research on these things also, you will score very nicely in prelims. Clear? Tomorrow find and tell me what is the technology behind PayWave. Yes, Srinidhi will answer yesterday's question. Which ministry heads FSSAI?
Ministry of Food and
Ministry of Food Processing.
Food and
Food is there. Ministry of Food is there. Ministry of Digestion. No? Yes? You read it. So stay calm, think, breathe. Yes, how many of you still don't know the answer? Yes. Stand in steps after the class. Okay, so next prelims questions are not there in this particular article, but it is useful for your society. Don't stereotype women in court rulings. So cut it, save it and write it in your GS paper 1 society. Next, as all of you know, foreign direct investment is anything about 10% capital that is being invested in any one company. It is different from foreign portfolio investment. So there are two ways. One is automatic route, the other one is approval route. Automatic route means you need not talk to Indian government and you can directly start dealing with a Indian company and set up shop. So in insurance sector till now it was 49%, it is increased to 74%. So that means till 74, that means till now 49 means what? 51% will be with Indian company. So you have to compulsory tie up with a Indian company, Bharati AXA. Right? If AXA is a international company with huge amount of money, it was forced to tie up with Bharati to create its own insurance company. Right now, it can go beyond 51%. That means AXA can directly start dealing with Indian customers. So we are interacting with international insurance providers. Insurance coverage in India is very, very less. So we need to increase the insurance coverage. So FDI limits are trivial data. It may not be asked in the questions directly, but some strategic sectors like defense, insurance may be asked as a question. Defense sector, 100% FDI is allowed. Atomic sector. First of all, private investment is not allowed in atomic sector. It is a strategic sector, right? Yes. Insurance, 74%. Again, as I told you, it may or may not be a prelims question. But you need to know the regulatory authority that controls insurance sector. Who? IRDAI. Up to, see, the moment I say any percentage, till that it's automatic. Say now up to 74%, I need not take permission of Indian government. I can directly come and start the business. So what will happen of this? Because of this, monopolies will be broken down, competition will be created and synergies will be developed. So if everybody will be rushing to lower the premium, higher the benefits, lower the premium, so that more and more people will come to me. Yes, so it will be beneficial for the Indian citizen. At the end of the day, probably one of the lowest premium policies can be paid by Indians, just like the phones. Yes or no? We pay one of the lowest tariffs in the world in comparison to data prices. Indian data is very cheap thanks to Mr. A. Raja. Yes or no? Yes. So he should be given some award, Padma Shri something. Okay, for digital inclusion. Brand ambassador for Digital India. Yes. Now coming back to the basic prelims question again. Just remember supplementary demand of grants, vote on account, appropriation bill, all these things are in the news in the last 3 days. I hope all of you know what is the difference between vote on account and appropriation bill. Why do we need vote on account? Yes, Rajni?
So the appropriation bill will be passed, and by the time it gets the assent of the president, it will take some time. And on the 1st April, government needs money. So for that amount of time, the
Vote on account will come into the picture. So temporarily to run the system, we need some amount of money which is not directly taken from the budget. So vote on account will be first passed so that day-to-day activities will keep on continuing. Then later the bill will be passed. So trivial details will be very important. So that is what I say, perfection should be there in static part. Before the yes, definitely, in that sense also true. So remember, like difference between disinvestment and privatization, all of you know, right? Strategic disinvestment. Again, we have discussed it hundreds of times. S-400 is from Russia. Other missiles are from which country should be remembered. The same way, the 4 agreements we have made with USA are important. Again, I won't think UPSC will ask you, but worst case scenario, CATSA might be asked, because this one act is in news multiple times and it is not an agreement that we have agreed. CATSA is not an agreement between India and USA. LEMUVA, BECA or other agreements are agreements between India and USA. CATSA is an act of USA. Understand the difference very clear. There is an agreement, there is an act. 4 agreements are between 2 parties, India and USA. That should not be confused with CATSA. So that is a sanctions act that American people have passed in their own country, but it can be applied internationally. Clear? So it's not an agreement between India and USA. So CATSA is an agreement between USA and India. We don't even read BCD. Yes or no? Josh? Yes, I know. CATSA. India, USA, yes. After coming back, you will slap your head, right? So don't do that. Read all the 4 options. The best example for similar question is 2011 GDP definition. The best example is 2011. Open your previous question papers book, Disha, and see in Indian economy there is a question. What is the definition of GDP? First line, goods and values produced in a country. Goods and services produced in a country. A, everybody A. Answer was D. Okay, so have that patience to read the rest of the options unless you are 1000% sure. Okay, so again after Disha, you check Disha and you let me know whether I was correct or not. Uninvited guess. So this article is more or less useful for IR. As you can clearly see, Russia is hosting an Afghan peace meet without India. India is also there. India will not go. Why? If India invited, then we will say no, right? So moral authority. Yes. Next. 2 things, please be very careful. One is bond yields. How many of you know what is a bond yield? Okay, 3 people. What about the rest of you? You have some idea? Who wants to explain to me what is bond yield apart from these 3 people? What are bond yields? So open market operations, you remember, right? This is about liquidity management. This is a tool of monetary policy. This is a quantitative tool or a qualitative tool? Quantitative tool. So this is used when huge amount of money or liquidity will be mostly absorbed from the markets or released into the markets. Huge amount of money. Small amount of money, repo rates. Repo rates are a much better tool. So now there is a continuous news even in today's newspaper about USA reducing its policy changes, and that led to bond yield changes. So first of all, you have to understand what are government securities, why government securities are considered as AAA rated. Almost all government security bonds are considered as AAA ratings. You can link it to Basel norms. Yes. So see, Basel norms true. Any bank holding government securities, risk assets. So don't worry, don't confuse yourself. We will stick to the basics. Okay, what are government securities? Any bond issued by government is government bond. So if I give 100 rupees to Hare Krishna, tomorrow I may vanish from Hyderabad, by run away with that 100 rupees, right? Yes or no? Huge amount of money. Very few people will see. So I can run away. The risk is very, very high. Even if I signed a bond also, the risk is very high. But if government of India is promising 1000 rupees, okay, government of India cannot run away. It cannot collapse. It cannot declare insolvency. What is the worst case scenario? It will start printing new money, because I can print the money. I have the power. Yes. So government bonds are considered as gold standard. But the problem is its interest rate is very, very less normally. Its interest rate is very, very less normally. So very few people who want stability over high returns invest in government securities. But the problem is sometimes the market is in a low, the market is collapsing, but the market is collapsing. High risk, high reward mentality is there in the markets. Then at such times people will start parking their money in government securities. So when your demand increases, what will happen to the price? Demand and supply, two things. If you understand this D by S formula, you can solve entire economy, right? D by S and S by D. Demand is more, supply is less, prices will increase. Supply is more, demand is less, prices will decrease. Supply is more, demand is less, prices will fall. Simply put, if more and more people wants to buy government securities, price of the bonds will increase. When price increases, there is an inverse relationship with yields. Prices and yields have inverse relationship. When prices increases, yields decrease. When price decrease, yields will increase. Don't worry, put a pen and paper after the class, put 100 rupees here. Price is 100 rupees, return is 5. Yes, when price is 110 or 200 rupees, what will happen to the yield? Simple maths, basic. Okay, inverse relationship between price and the yields. Demand and supply, price and yield. So if you understand that, probably a prelims question can be answered. Okay, and again remember, normally speaking, government securities will give you less returns. Yes or no? When you save money in State Bank of India, it will mind-blowingly give you 4% returns. Yes or no? If you invest in some shares or stock market or a mutual fund, the fund manager will guarantee you 6 or 8% of returns. Okay, so when the reward is high, risk is also sometimes higher. Okay, not necessarily, but sometimes. Okay, when the reward is less, the risk is also less stable. Government will give you 4% no matter what. Yes, so that should be understood. If you understand that, all the news in today's newspaper you can also remember. So please remember what is bond yield. It's a very important question. Again, I am sure when you solve that 500 questions, at least 3 or 4 questions will come on the particular area. You will perfect it, but you need to remember, first you need to know what is a bond, what is bond yield, what is the relationship between bond price and bond yield. Clear? Next, open market operations. What are the qualitative tools and quantitative tools in monetary policy has to be remembered, right? Again, I am not telling you Harikatha. If you are coming to the class, please write down these questions. Yes? Or if you think you are smart enough to know all the answers, that is fine. 2 things, no problem. Right? Now, please read this question. Keep the answer with yourself. Yes. How many of you know the answer? Or like, what is your answer? How many of you think A?
I'm not sure.
A, B, C, D. Okay, so the answer is C. Both of them are correct statements. So participatory notes are a derivative instruments issued by SEBI registered foreign institutional investors, not foreign portfolio investors. There is a difference. Please understand. And the underlying Indian security can be equity, debt, derivatives, or maybe even a index. Okay, underlying asset. I am not selling the asset per se directly to a foreigner. I am selling the value of the asset to that foreign institutional investor. So very simple. So it's a P note, participatory note. It is in the news today. Participatory notes have been in demand in recent times. So automatically P notes get attention. Government is trying to stringently control the P note route. Okay, but still P notes are coming into the country. Right. Again, as I will share the document. Don't worry. And there is a mines and mineral regulation amendment bill. It's still a bill. You need not go into the depth of that particular article. When it becomes an act, you can focus on it. But one important prelims question is this. Because occasionally you will see that mafia are in the news because sand mining is happening. So minor minerals and major minerals. And if you read this particular act or the PRS document, there is one common line, except coal, lignite and atomic minerals. Okay, they are under Atomic Energy Act 1962. Sand is not under Atomic Energy Act, but the thing is, any other material described under Atomic Energy Act is not coming under minor mineral lease. Alright, because atomic sector is a strategic sector. So the sand is not under mines and mineral leases. Atomic coal is not under mines and minerals leases, right? Lignite and everything that is mentioned under Atomic Energy Act. Plutonium, other things. There is a list of 8 or 9 items. Don't worry, it's still a bill. Bills are not asked as a prelims questions. Only when they become acts, they will be asked. But sometimes you see sand is in the news. So sand comes under state governments. So when you become district collector, one of your headaches is controlling the sand mining or mafia. And in states like Andhra Pradesh, it has been regularized. It's totally digital, right? You have to buy sand from online through auctions. Clear? Yes. This is again coming back to electoral bonds. So I want you to find out the basis for Mr. Relief Fund and the difference between PM CARES and fund. Clear? Yes. So yesterday I think I have given you 10 questions or 15 questions in the similar fashion. Those who found out the answers, you will definitely see a lot of improvement in your understanding. Those who are postponing them in the prelims hall, you will remember me. Okay. Yes? Right. Okay then, see you all tomorrow.